to Canucks After Dark. Here are your hosts, Parker Hallowell and Clay Emo.
Hello, good evening, Vancouver. Welcome back to Canucks After Dark, the September edition. It is September 1st, and we have a bit of stuff to talk about tonight, and we're going to have a fun chat about the Canucks, the NHL, and everything else going on in the sports world. As always, I am joined by my co-host, Canuck Clay Emo. How are you doing today?
Parker, I am good. I hope you are well as well. I know that today, this is our, it's coming, my favorite word. This is our penultimate Wednesday episode. Isn't that correct? Our second to last?
That is correct. For those of you who don't know, we are wrapping up season 1 next Wednesday on September 8th, and then we will transition into season 2 of Canucks After Dark on Monday, September 13th, as we approach the 2021-22 NHL season.
I will tell you, I know I extol you as a really good athlete. I am not. I'm an old fat guy, old dad. But I started personal training this morning again. I think we're going to do a 4-month commitment with a trainer that I used to train with. So maybe didn't do the best job. But I am so sore, man. Like I got up at Parker time before 6:30, which I never do. I was on Zoom from 7 to 8, and I'm hurt. Like it was good. I survived, so that gives me some confidence. But I'm feeling it, man. I'm feeling it everywhere.
Well, it is good to get in the grind for the winter. Not much outdoor stuff to do coming up here, so we can enjoy the last little bit of good weather we have. And as always, those of you who are listening live in the YouTube chat, we see you guys. So we are going to need your help later on for some segment ideas, but we will read your comments as we go, as always. So feel free to keep firing those messages out in the chat. And if you're listening after the fact on a podcast platform, then go subscribe to the YouTube and maybe catch some live episodes as we get into the new NHL season.
You know what's exciting, Parker? And we were talking before we went on the air, and you said that you were totally in the stats and analytics, not just for hockey players, but for our numbers too, and our channel's numbers, which is awesome. You're teaching me so much. But you said that even in August, even though there wasn't really much to talk about, our shows, and thanks to everyone listening and watching, have been actually doing really well in August.
It has been a steady increase. Our last 3 episodes on the podcast side have been our most listened to yet. And they keep going up little by little every week. So yeah, thank you guys very much. And the more of you that listen to the podcast, the more it moves up those charts and the more people that see it. So very cool. Thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, imagine when the Canucks actually start doing something. We're gonna have lots of listens.
Exactly. No, it's gonna be a really fun season, and we're gonna be with you every Monday throughout the NHL season, which is gonna be a lot of fun. Do you want to jump into some marquee topics?
Sure, man. You lead as you always do.
Now here's the dilemma we have for this week.
Okay.
Is we have one Canucks related topic, but as far as topic priority goes, it's quite a ways down the list typically.
Yeah.
So Clay, you have the choice here. Do we want to start with Canucks talk as we like to do, or start with actual interesting news?
Well, I'm torn. I can see your dilemma, Parker, because we are called Canucks After Dark, not NHL After Dark or Offer Sheet After Dark. I think that's a spoiler alert, but it's not the most interesting thing. But I'd like to stay true to our brand. Let's do the Canucks topic first, even if it only gets us 3 to 4 minutes worth, and then we get into the heavy stuff.
Absolutely. And for those of you in the chat, if you want to give us some Canucks like 2 Canucks related questions while we're here over the next 2 minutes, so that way we can at least talk about the Canucks for like 10 minutes instead of 3. The one thing we want to talk about today, and this is a fun article that dropped this morning or this afternoon. Don't remember exactly when it was. It is an article from Rakapucker.com. It is
careful now.
I am being careful. It is a Swedish website. And Henrik Lehman at this publication put an article out titled, and this is all translated from Google Translate. So if anything's wrong, I'm sorry. But it is, quote, "Louis' bullying is over," quote, "like starting over."
Bullying?
Well, let's be real. This fan base, was not very nice to Loui Eriksson. But Loui Eriksson wasn't very nice to us at the same time. So there's some really fun quotes on here. One of the quotes is, "From the freezer in Vancouver to the desert in Arizona." It's been gorgeous here for the last few months, but I digress. He said it's going to be a lot of fun. New team, new coach, new players, like starting over. He had sort of a rocky relationship with Travis Green. The quote in this article. So in his second year, Travis Green came in as coach. Him and Loui Eriksson were never a match made in heaven. And then in brackets, rather a warmer place. I think Loui is happy to be out of here.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Thank you, Parker. I have not read it. What is it with our players or ex-players appearing in Swedish reports, by the way? Isn't that how that PD Firestorm started? Like,
yeah, it was a different one. And what's interesting about this one is I'm looking at this website that posted this article, and they have a little thing in the top right corner about their social media presence.
Okay.
And they have 1,100 Twitter followers, this publication, and 2,300 Facebook fans. So your Twitter is multiple times bigger than this news organization that Loui Eriksson's doing interviews with, which means we can probably get Loui Eriksson on the show.
Well, let's work on that. What a way to start season 2.
And just get some hot clips. We'll see what we can do. We'll see if we can get Loui Eriksson on September 13th. So make sure you stay tuned for that.
I just hope he doesn't charge us an appearance fee. But here's the thing, Parker. Yes, we all know he was signed on that day on July 1, 2016 or whatever, where everyone that was making a lot of money. We know that list of players. A lot of them aren't even playing or as well. They're basically as good as Loui Eriksson. But one quote I saw was that he tried to kind of just bear with it, work hard, have a good attitude. But I was telling you before, I've heard multiple people connected with the team that said Loui didn't have a good attitude. I'm not trying to start anything or whatever. This is just what I've heard, that he wasn't the happiest guy. Now maybe it's what do you call it? Chicken and egg. Maybe he's not happy because he wasn't playing. So I get that, but he is kind of pocketing $6 million a year. So I don't know.
Yeah, and to be fair to him, his quote in this article was, quote, "I never wanted to give up. They knew that. The only thing I could do was be at the ice rink, show a good mood, drive and train every day. It was as it was. I have wanted to get away from this for a long time. There was nothing to complain about, but since my contract was so big, it was difficult. But of course, it would have been fun if it had happened a few years ago," Loui says. So show a good mood. Parker, you and I show a good mood every Wednesday night and soon to be Monday night. To me, that's a good mood. We're happy. We're jovial. Yeah. We like each other, and we do whatever we can to support each other, which is legitimate and genuine and awesome. I'm not saying that he didn't do stuff to support his teammates, but I've just heard that his attitude wasn't great. And so if that's his idea of good mood, then imagine what a static mood would be. Yeah, I mean, we're on a great mood in the heart of the offseason on September 1st, where our marquee topic is an interview Loui Eriksson did, who doesn't even play for the team anymore, with a Swedish publication that doesn't seem to be very trustworthy anyways. Anyways, it's I think that's all we really need to talk about on the Loui Eriksson side.
Before you take that banner down,
sure.
Parker, what it doesn't have to be sum it up in one word, but what would you say the legacy truly of Loui Eriksson was, if any? Disappointment, but like what would you call it?
It was just sad.
Yeah.
For like all around. The buildup of hype, and not everyone loved the contract the day it was signed, but lots of people thought, you know what? For a few years, this is a guy who's going to go out and probably score around 30 goals for a couple of years. Meanwhile, he doesn't do that over 5 years. It really it was broken from the start, and there was no going back, right? I mean, you've committed for 6 years on this guy. There's no, you can't just get rid of that contract until, there's 1 year left and you're using it to trade for another contract that might be iffy in Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
But Parker, I think as we leave this topic, we're on to something. Everyone in the chat, we see meme, we see albatross. Everyone give a word Loui in a word. That is our
Yes.
segment for the next 2 minutes.
Yes.
Loui in a word.
And what is your one word to describe Loui Eriksson's stint in Vancouver?
I said I don't want to use disappointment. You took sad, which is a good one. I'll take it doesn't mean he filled it. I'll say potential.
Yeah. It's just unfulfilled potential. Absolutely.
There's some great ones there. Just put them up. They're so good, actually.
We had Disaster from Steel Dog. Coach Rob agrees with me on sad.
Yeah.
Gomer says stud. Shout out to Gomer, watching from Thailand, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that.
Lucas is overrated.
Yeah.
It's kind of cheating the system.
Yeah, a little
here
bit.
with Empty Net Genius, all one word.
Like it.
Meme, upsetting, melancholy, depressing, and of course the last one is legend, coming from Cyrus. And there will be a legend of Loui Eriksson, and that will always be part of the history books of the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah. Well, I think we spent our. You know what? We almost spent 6 minutes on this. One minute for every $1 million. Yes.
Oh boy. And if we really want to fulfill the Loui Eriksson sort of legacy, we should continue talking about it for the next 30 minutes to make it a full 36 and just waste everyone's time.
Sad. Your word, sad.
All right. Where do we want to go next? Do we want to get off of the Canucks here and start marching around?
Let's go with the big one. And you set this up. I think you're ready to do this. It's our lead on our title.
Is it our lead? Offer sheets? Yes, that
You
is the
got
lead. I just wouldn't want to pick the wrong one. So this one is fun. The Carolina Hurricanes going out, and I'm going to make it red for Carolina.
There you go.
Carolina Hurricanes going out and putting an offer sheet together for Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who has been, under-seasoned, I would say. He hasn't played a lot, but his entry-level contract has come to an end in Montreal. He was a very high pick, much higher than most people expected. And Carolina, as retaliation for the Sebastian Aho contract, and there's no doubt it was retaliation based on all the things we'll get into shortly, have given him an offer sheet for $6.1 million. It's a 1-year offer sheet. So the contract risk isn't that big for Carolina, but they would have to give up a first and a third round pick in next year's draft to make that happen. To sort of break down Kotkaniemi for you, he's 21 years old. He was the 3rd overall pick back in 2018. In his career, he has played 171 games. He has 62 points. So about a 30-point player throughout his career so far. Not worth $6.1 million, but if it's just for 1 year to get the rights to this player, although his qualifying offer will be high, that's sort of the Canes' MO here.
Okay, and I'll let you get into the trolling pieces in a second, but we'll talk about the player itself, himself. You know how I first heard of him? Do you remember when he got tied up with Pettersson at center ice in I guess both of their rookie years, right? No, was that Pettersson's rookie year? I can't remember. Maybe.
It might have been. Yeah, it was.
So thankfully, Pettersson didn't miss much time, maybe only a couple games, but that was scary. And then actually, Pettersson did say afterwards that it was just two guys battling for the puck. It wasn't like it was a dirty play, unlike the Mike Matheson hit, the other injury that put out, for Pettersson that year. But that's how I remember. I can't even say his name, so I'll just say KK. You pronounce it well. Every time I do it, it sounds like I'm saying a body part. So I'll just stop there. So yes, a decent player, but 6.1. I don't know, man. I know we're gonna go there. I wouldn't pay him that. I would just take the draft picks and run, honestly.
Yeah, it's a tough scenario for Montreal, right? Because he was their 3rd overall pick just a few years ago, and meant to be a number 1 center ideally for this team, but it's paying $6.1 million for Kotkaniemi is risky. It's kind of a lose-lose for Montreal, right? Where you're either losing a player who you have lots of hope for in the future for a late 1st and 3rd, right? Or a mid to late 1st and 3rd round pick, unprotected. So if Carolina really falls apart, then that's nice, but probably not. So Kotkaniemi probably has more value than what Carolina would have to give up. but he's also not worth the $6.1 million. So Carolina is basically turning Jesperi Kotkaniemi into a negative value contract, which could help them pull him from Montreal. And if not, Montreal has to sign him, and they're kind of hurt regardless because of that qualifying offer that they're going to have to pay into the future, not just for this year.
That's a great point, Parker. Because of the restricted free agent rules, whoever, whether it's Carolina or Montreal, whoever has him this season, they have to start at 6.1. So you're in essence setting his contract not just for this upcoming season, but for at least one more future season. If you're Montreal, are you okay? Are you okay walking away from it, simply saying and hoping the fan base understands, hey, we like this player, he has potential, but right now we can't justify 6.1 for him?
Yeah, I think that's might be the correct move, but it also, it's kind of letting Carolina win, right? Like this was orchestrated not by the general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, not by Waddell, Don Waddell, the GM. It was orchestrated by Tom Dundon, the owner of the Hurricanes, because he was mad about the offer sheet that Montreal gave. So some backstory. The offer sheet Montreal gave Sebastian Aho wasn't egregious. Weak. Like money-wise, like it's a good contract for Carolina. Yeah. The issue was how front-loaded the money was, right? Tom Dundon was like a new owner. He had just bought the Carolina Hurricanes recently before that. And he didn't want to, I think in the 3 years or whatever it's been, or 2 or 3 years since that offer sheet, I think they've already had to pay out like $28 million in cash to Aho because of how front loaded that deal was. So he's upset about this. So now he's trying to retaliate. And there's some fun things. Basically, Don Waddell, the GM, put out a quote that was word for word what Marc Bergevin had said about Sebastian Aho. The signing bonus for the 1 year contract was $20, literally $20, because that's Sebastian Aho's number. So it's just a big old troll fest that I think everyone kind of loses, except Jesperi Kotkaniemi, because Kotkaniemi is making $6 million next year and he has not earned it. So good for him.
Yeah, and not only you mentioned the using the exact same wording in the tweet, and then Carolina actually did a tweet in French, which was pretty funny.
Yeah,
and then
they changed their bio to French too on Twitter.
And the matching $20 signing bonus for Aho's number, I believe the actual offer was $6.10015, $15, and those $15 at the end also matched. See, I can't even say his name. KK's jersey number. So to have that 15 in there, the 20, the French tweet, the French bio, and of course the word for word matching tweet from 2 years ago. Funny stuff, man. It
is funny, and look, we're in the entertainment industry, right? The NHL, it's designed to entertain, and even if a move was just made that makes both Montreal and Carolina worse, probably. Well, Carolina, if Montreal matches, Carolina doesn't get hurt at all. Yeah. And it's just they just had a good laugh. But it's good for everyone else, and we can kind of enjoy that in this offseason.
Now, okay, so if we both agree that Montreal would be justified in walking away from this, is there any other angle? I guess Carolina obviously wants this player to some extent.
Yeah, you'd think so, right? And it's they must be thinking that Kotkaniemi has some untapped potential, and that he will evolve into this, actual real number one, number two center. But yeah, if it's a 1 year gamble and they're saying, okay, we're going to give up a first and a third, we're going to overpay him for 1 year. And he's either going to overachieve, put up 50, 55 points, and then we can sign him for that $6.1 million qualifying offer that it's going to have to be, right. Or we cut our losses and we lost our late first and a third. We're kind of trying to compete anymore, or we're kind of trying to compete already anyways. So you might as well go for it.
So Parker, as you're talking about that, I looked up his actual offer. Yes, it's $6.10035. The $20 you talked about matching
and the Kotkaniemi,
yes,
15.
and the 15. So he is the third. He'll be the third highest player on the Hurricanes forwards, behind, of course, Aho and Svechnikov, and just ahead of Jordan Staal. So, yeah, that's quite a haul for a 21-year-old who, as you said, is not bad, but he's not proven yet. Like as a proven, yeah, wow, it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, and if the Canucks had done this, we wouldn't be very excited, right? And if it had happened to the Canucks, and the other angle that people sort of came at this from was, well, what if Montreal says, screw it, you can have Kotkaniemi, Carolina, and then they go out and use this money that they were going to use to try to sign him and say, all right, let's go offer sheet Elias Pettersson. Now, this was kind of floating around. And most people are saying that's not going to happen. It just isn't, right? It's just not going to happen.
I hope not. I don't think so. And we know that Jim Benning flat out right at the start of the offseason said, we are going to match any offer sheet for PD. Now, of course he believes that. Is that meant to scare guys off? Who knows? Does it actually scare guys off? Who knows? But I have a feeling at this point, I was going to say at this point, it seems kind of late, but this only happened 3 days ago. So I guess it's not that late. If he's not signed, he's not signed. Mm-hmm. But I don't worry about it. I know we've talked about this too. Besser, Horvat, they were all signed close to training camp time. Although I will say that this training camp's a little bit later this year because the start of the season's a bit later by a week or two. So technically, in relative terms, they might not sign until September 20. 21, 22, right? Which is later in the year, but relative to training camp, it's before training camp starting still. So we could be in for another 3 weeks of this, Parker.
Yeah, and there's really no hurry, right? No. You want them to be there for day one of camp, but if they're not, it's okay. It's probably fine.
We'll survive.
Yep. All right. Ready to move on?
Sure.
All right. Let's go to Beijing, China, to talk about the Olympics.
We're going to Beijing.
We are. Well, we're not. I don't think. I mean, unless both of our channels start doing really, really well, and we want to go cover the Olympics. But it looks like the NHL will be going to the Olympics, which is lovely, lovely news. And it's not confirmed. Basically, we were told the NHL will make a decision this week, and then Emily Kaplan from ESPN. Alan Walsh, who is a very famous player agent, and someone else all basically came out and said, yeah, it's happening. Like all of our sources are saying it's going to, the NHL is going to go to the Olympics, which is, it's exciting. We get real best on best hockey for the first time since 2016. And even that was kind of iffy, being the World Cup.
Was that weird one where they're the Young Guns team?
Yes, Team North America. Yeah.
Which was pretty exciting to watch, actually.
It was fun.
Yes, but you're right. Sochi 2014 was... No. Where was 2014 and where's 2018?
2014 was Sochi.
Where they played, right? And 2018 was...
South Korea, I think.
Where they didn't play. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Which makes sense. Okay. No, I love best on best. It's just a lot of fun. It's a chance to support Canada, of course, and props to your video. I don't know if we want to talk about that in a second, but props to your video about projecting the roster. But it's also cheering on, even though not against Canada, our Canucks players that might play for other teams, i.e. Demko Hughes and Besser Miller, all having a chance to make the U.S. team. PD and Ekman Larsson likely on the Swedish team, maybe a Hoglander outside chance, Podkolzin on Russia. So whatever it may be, it's a cool chance to see some of our Canucks players on playing with other players, as long as they don't. Actually, here's a question for you. No, I think I know the answer. If it was Team Canada with no Canucks players, right? Not even Horvat, versus Team USA with 4 USA players, Team Canada still, right?
I hope the US gets shut out.
Perfect. Great answer.
I don't care. It's all Canada once February rolls around.
Right.
The couple things that I wanted to talk about here.
Sure.
One of them is who we think from the Canucks will be in playing games in the Olympics.
Yep.
So let's start there. I mean, there's one lock, right? And that's Elias Pettersson. He will be playing for Team Sweden.
Yep.
What's your next prediction?
My next prediction, I'd love to talk about the U.S. team. I think Hughes will make it as long as he doesn't fall off a cliff. I think Hughes will make it. I've seen him projected second, third pairing. And I think Demko is interesting because I've seen him on many rosters. I've seen him off of many rosters as battling as that third goalie, right? And then the two forwards, Besser and Miller. I think if Besser has a season like he just did, he'll be on the team. I think Miller should be, but I've seen him left off of a couple. So U.S. could have up to 4 Canucks players.
Yeah, and I could see Demko sliding in as maybe the third goalie. Yep. I think Hellebuck is going to have it, right? It's his team.
Yes,
and
yes.
It's like he's so good. John Gibson, also a really good option. People forget about him because he's in Anaheim, but he is the reason Anaheim wins any games. So I could see, Thatcher Demko sort of behind him there. But yeah, I think, like you said, I think Hughes has a good chance. I think Besser has a really good chance, especially we got that glimpse of healthy Brock Besser last year. And it's like, all right, this is a 30 to 40 goal scorer. Like it just is. And if he gets anywhere close to that, then he will have a prominent role on that team. JT Miller, I'm a little less confident in, just because, he is getting a little older every year and eventually that curve is going to start going the other way. So again, it's one of those things where if they have a really good, really good first 40 games of the season, then yeah, you're probably going to make it.
Yep. And so I agree. So there's 4 potential Canucks. Tom mentioned about 10 comments up that OEL was at the pre-Olympic camp for Sweden. So yes, I think Ekman Larsson, maybe a third pairing guy, extra defenseman. He's certainly not going to displace the Hedmans of the world in Sweden, but he's still got a game. So I think Ekman Larsson will likely make that Swedish team. So that's at least him and Pettersson. Who else?
Well, do we want to put Bo Horvat on the team?
Talk to us. What's your theory?
This is a tricky one, and in my video I had him as my 14th forward, which would be the last forward to make the team, and it was for basically one reason, and that was if the people picking Team Canada are picking guys who are going to be the 13th and 14th forward, they're going to pick the veteran leadership type player. I figured was more likely instead of like the young gun who might put up 60 points a season, 70 points a season, but less leadership qualities. And they might want to have someone who they can just sort of slot into any role if someone gets hurt. So that's why I leaned sort of Tavares and Horvat as my 13th, 14th. But there's a lot of guys who could take those spots, right? I think Matt Barzal will probably make the team, and he could push one of them out. Yanni Gourd's a decent option. There's quite a few guys that can move Horvat up. Horvat would have to have a really good season. And the reason that I give him a shot is Connor Garland. Because if he can go out and play with Connor Garland and excel, and let's say he has 30 points through the first 40 games of the season, which is a bit of a reach, but it could happen, then that's when he would start, actually having a shot at making the team.
Yes. And I watched your video, and I know you have Crosby between the two Bruins, right? And then you have your speed line, as you said, of crazy McDavid, McKinnon, and just a guy named Mitch Marner on their wing.
Yeah, the 3 M's. Yeah, that's the fact that could be a team's second line, right? We saw Crosby playing with Bergeron and Marchand in 2016, and they were so dominant. And like I said in my video, Marchand since then, his last 3 seasons, he's all been on 100+ point pace, right? Wow. So he's gotten better as he's gotten older. Sidney Crosby's still Sidney Crosby. He's maybe not as quick as he was before, but he's still the same player. And Patrice Bergeron's one of the best 2-way players in the game. And then, that leaves your second line as you have some options. You can bump Nathan McKinnon to your third line, which is, again, just silly, and then move like a Huberdeau up to play with like a McDavid and Marner. And it's just a bounty of riches on this Canadian team. Yeah,
and then you have Braden Point as your 4th center then behind.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Behind Crosby, McKinnon, and McDavid. You're right. And then you're right. Horvat would be fighting guys like Barzal, like Couturier, like Tavares. Exactly what you said. And I like Edmund. Edmund just 3 up. Why don't you answer this, because you did the video on it? Who do you think is Team Canada's starting goalie?
This one is tricky. So I think the two main contenders are Carey Price and Marc-Andre Fleury, which is a little scary because they're both excellent goalies that are getting old, right?
Yes.
Carey Price is going to be 34. Marc-Andre Fleury is going to be 37 by the time the Olympics roll around. But Marc-Andre Fleury just won a Vezina. Carey Price just carried his team through 3 rounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I think Carey Price is probably first choice from like looking at sort of the management group and who is there, sort of like you think of a hockey GM, right? Like old fashioned kind of guy. And I think Carey Price fits that bill really well. And Carey Price in important games is one of the best goalies we've seen in a long time. Marc-Andre Fleury is also fantastic. So I think what'll happen, I think Price will be the assumed starter unless Fleury is absolutely nuts with Chicago next season. And then, but in the group play, in the games against, Germany, in the game against China.
Yeah, China. Poor China.
We'll see who gets the net. And then the third goalie is the trickier one, right? Because I think Price and Fleury are going to be your 1-2, and whichever one's hot is who they'll play. Your third goalie, you sort of are between guys like Darcy Kemper, Jordan Binnington, Mackenzie Blackwood, but Blackwood had a bad year last year, so he kind of fell off of that list. So it's basically, Kemper or Binnington. One little wrench in that is the GM is Doug Armstrong, GM of the St. Louis Blues. So Binnington might have a bit of an edge there, even though I like Kemper more, but Kemper playing for Arizona hasn't played in any meaningful games really. So they might want to go with a guy like Binnington.
Yeah, Binnington, man. Maybe it's because I like watching highlights of the Canucks destroying St. Louis in the bubble from last summer. He was so bad, don't you think? Like, don't you remember he was letting in all Troy Stetcher scoring from like the sideboards?
Well, lots of people are mentioning Carter Hart too, and Carter Hart was abysmal last year. He went from being, a super highly touted prospect to coming in his first year and being really good, right? He put up a 917 as a rookie season, a 914 the year after. Last year, he couldn't make a save. He was an 877 save percentage, and he really hurt Philadelphia last year to the point where he wasn't the starter by the end of the season, right? He only played 27 of the 56 games.
Interesting.
So that leads me to think that he's not going to be on the short list unless he really has an outstanding resurgence to the start of next season. So that's why I have Carter Hart sort of off to the side right now.
Right. And you named Kemper, right, as your third if you had to pick one? Yeah. I'd agree with that. He's funny. He's kind of like kind of the forgotten man almost, because we've always had guys like Price and Fleury who kind of get more spotlight. So I'm fine with him as a third. I'm not sure I'm fine with him as a starter, but as a third goalie, sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing I wanted to talk about in regards to this is that the seeding has been done, as we sort of alluded to. So the grouping, and I can pull it up. Olympic hockey groups. Group A is hilarious. So you have Canada.
Yes.
You have the United States of America. So already that's going to be a fun game. When they'll play in the round robin. You have Germany, and this is unfortunate for Germany because I think if Germany was in like Group B, they'd probably have a real shot because Germany has a good team, right? I think they're ranked like number 5 in the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they have guys like, Draisaitl is their star.
Cahoon, yes.
Yeah. And then China. So China gets a free ride into this tournament because they are the host. But in this 12-team Olympic tournament, and there's rumors that China won't be able to even field the team. Keep in mind, you would think, okay, Canada will go out, they'll score 8 goals, then they'll call it, right? They just won't try anymore. But in this group seeding, goal differential is the tiebreaker. So you're going to have, let's say the U.S. plays against China to start the tournament, and they go out and they put up 50 goals. Now, that sounds ridiculous, but I think I'm being conservative.
Yeah.
And then now Canada has to go out 2 days later and be like, all right, boys, we need at least 51, right? Like, because we're talking about putting the best players in the world in like guys like Team Canada where you could make like 13 Team Canadas out of NHL players. And you're putting them against these Chinese players who are probably like, I don't know what level you could compare them to, right? Would they be like major junior caliber, like WHL? I don't think so. We don't even typically see Chinese players in major junior.
No.
So if it's, could you imagine putting out guys like Bergeron, Crosby, and Marchand against a junior A team? And then putting out McDavid, McKinnon, and Marner against the second line of that team, right? Like, it's just a recipe for absolute disaster.
Okay, I'm half Chinese. Okay, so Emo, my last name is Japanese. My mother is Chinese, so I'm half Chinese, and I've seen this song and dance before, Parker, when Japan hosted the Olympics back in 1998. And my cousin Dusty, who I'm still not afraid to name, thank you. My cousin Dusty was the goaltender for Japan. And, here's the thing. This was Japan's group. Not very strong. Germany, Belarus, France, and Japan. But Japan went 0 for 3. But the goal differential was only -5. And I'd like to think it's because, my cousin Dusty helped with that. But still, yeah, they didn't win a game. They were the host country. So we might have similar vibes here. But I think China's going to fare a lot worse because Japan's level of competition wasn't as tough as China's going to be. So I agree with everything you said. Maybe it won't be as bad as 50, but it's going to be pretty bad. And you don't want to ever, be classless and run up score like the U.S. women's soccer team likes to do against lesser foes. But if goal differential is the tiebreaker and you want that easier matchup, you want to win your group.
Yeah, you want to win the gold, right? If you have to hurt some people's feelings along the way, I mean, it's fine.
Can you put up Coach Rob's? Yes. Well, I'd cover a lot of the net. I'll just say that. That's all I'll say.
For those of you audio listeners, Coach Rob was suggesting that Clay could play for the team, but yeah, that might not work. Speaking of potentially winning gold, we had some gold medals handed out last night in the IIHF World Championships, the Women's World Championships, with an absolute just electric game. And I don't know what it is about Canada versus the US that just always breeds phenomenal hockey. But the women's side is no exception. A 3-2 overtime win. Marie-Philippe Poulin, one of the best women's hockey players of all time, with an absolutely beautiful shot, straight bar down, literally hits the bar, goes straight down plus like 2 inches and just falls in and then skips out. She's the only one that saw it. It was phenomenal.
And then 30. So yes, she knows it went in. Her teammates are trusting her, right, as she flies by, but then realize the place.
Like, I don't know, like, do we want to just all leave and then the States go down and score and then it's mayhem?
Right. And so it's 30 seconds elapsed. And just as the announcers are saying, maybe Team Canada wants a whistle so they can review it, they actually are reviewing it in real time. And boom, the buzzer goes in the middle of the play. And of course, euphoria rightfully erupts. Yes, that was an amazing moment. And you know what's so funny, Parker? I was working last night, so then I looked it up online. And I guess Canada beat the US 3-2 in overtime back in the 2014 Sochi Olympics. Because the first video I pulled up, I was so confused because US was winning 2-0 with 3 minutes left. And then I watched this amazing highlights of Canada scoring twice in the final 3 and then Poulin scoring in overtime 7 years ago. So what a legend. What a legend. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent goal. And, there was a lot of people arguing because of it. Like, hey, 3-on-3 overtime's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's do more of that, please. And one of the worst things in international hockey has been shootouts and big games being decided by shootouts. And this has happened in World Juniors in the past and World Championships. And it's such a sad way for things to end, right? And I mean, we saw it, back in the Olympics where that one where TJ Oshie had like 9 straight rounds in the shootout. And though you get those electric moments sometimes, but it's not the same as having, like a real goal be scored, whether that's 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 or 5-on-5. And that's one thing that's always disappointed me about watching hockey, at least in the last, whenever they got rid of ties, like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Just, the shootout is just a sad way to lose at the end of the day.
Sad way to lose, and then you still get your 1 point, right, for not winning. And yeah, it's mucked up the standings for the past 15 seasons as you've talked about. But the shootout's interesting because you bring a little kid to a game, or I'll bring maybe not one of my kids, they're older, but you bring someone who's never been to a game. They think it's the best thing ever, right? Everyone in the lower bowl standing, and although I'm watching it from the upper bowl, my cheap seats, and it's pretty cool. But yes, you're right. Hockey purists like you and I think we'd prefer something else. But then we can't run into the guys ragged for a regular season game, right? You
know what's cooler to the kids though?
What's that?
Just electric back and forth 3-on-3 hockey.
Yeah.
Especially if I don't know if it needs like a shot clock or something, because teams have gotten really lazy and they've figured out that possession is way more important than anything else. That's why you do. I saw the one suggest like a while back, and it was like you do 4 minutes of 4-on-4, 3 minutes of 3-on-3, 2 minutes of 2-on-2, and then just 1-on-1 for the rest. That would be interesting, to say the least.
That would be amazing. 1-on-1. And then if they don't score, you just goalie against goalie?
Sure, why not? Yeah, that'd be fun. They're just passing it back and forth down the ice.
Yeah, that's fascinating because I'm not a finely tuned athlete, as I mentioned off the top of the show. So I'd be interested to know, 4-4, 3-on-3, you'd think the games would end within 7 minutes, hopefully, and at the most 9 minutes once you get to 2-on-2. But how, wear and tear, all that kind of thing. Maybe the PA will never go for it, but I think that'd be hilarious. I really would.
Yeah, and the whole 3-on-3 thing, people have talked about, extend it to 10 minutes or something like that, and then just call it a tie after, right? Like, one, it would save time because shootouts are pretty slow. They got to do a scrape of the ice and all that stuff, and you could do 10 minutes 3-on-3, but also. Like the whole wear and tear thing, but you only have 3 guys on the ice at a time, right? So it is less playing time than during the regular game. Although, it is usually more action packed, although lately, not really. It's been probably easier than the 5-on-5 game, just being, possession and retaining possession, all that stuff. But it would be, I would love it if they went to like a 10-minute 3-on-3 and then, give us a tie after that. If it's genuinely an earned tie where no one is able to score, then call it, both teams get a point and move on. Right.
And you're not allowed to go back and take the puck behind your net.
Yeah, or do like basketball, right? Do like an over and back rule, all right? Like you cross the red line, okay. Yeah. The red line is your limit now. As long as you have the puck, you can't go behind the red line or something like that.
I like that. Okay, I think we're onto something.
We should run the NHL.
We should. We make good videos too. Hey, we actually plowed past Don't Do That.
Yeah, we plowed past it. We really milked these topics a lot better than I thought we would. I thought we both were like, all right, we're good for 20 minutes. But we do like to talk. So we take our time. So this is a good time. If you guys want to submit some Don't Do That's. And right after you submit a Don't Do That, submit a question or a comment or a topic idea. We got about 15 minutes left in the show. So this is your time. There are 70 of you in here. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. And this is your chance to get your questions asked and answered by the both of us here. And I will switch this to this.
Awesome.
And I'll even change the color. We're going to make it purple.
I like how you had the emojis in the other one too. The Olympic.
I can do that more. I should do that more. All right. Do we have anything here yet? Thinking of missing Clay's first ever 24-hour live stream. Don't do that. For some backstory, Clay announced that he is going to be doing a 24-hour live stream on October 15th and 16th, which the Canucks play back-to-back games. Why don't you tell the people a little bit more?
Well, it's just a way for me to kick off the season, something different. I won't be able to do as many live streams throughout the year, so I figured get all my time in on one weekend. No big work things. So the plan is, honestly, I want people to watch your post-game live stream, which you are doing right after the game. Then I'm going to start mine. Then I want you to come on at regular Canucks After Dark time as one of my guests, and then I'm going to figure out what the heck I'm going to do between basically midnight and 5. Build in some bathroom breaks, bring in a couple media people, have a contest or two, bring Marie in for a jam session, and then watch the Saturday game, and then we're done. So it's just something different.
Hey, if you need a night shift partner, I'll be around. I can even come over. We'll do something for
something live.
We're talking about a Friday night and a Saturday morning, so I will I'll be available if you need someone to fill some time.
Thank you. My people will talk to your people, so it'll be me talking to your people.
Yes,
it'll be great. Okay.
Which is me still.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anything you want to pick out of here?
Yeah. See edits. Underestimating Team Canada. Don't ever do that. So I'm not sure if did someone underestimate them, or she's just warning everyone not to.
I think she's warning. I think it's a general term. So to our 9% of U.S. listeners, I'm sorry. To our 4% of Swedish listeners, I am sorry. I will say our Australian listeners probably aren't too concerned about the Olympic hockey. Same with our Japanese viewer base. So you guys are fine.
We'll stay out of the political ones, anything about vaccines or voting, but you guys can certainly talk about it. That's fine. That's cool.
There's no need we're here to talk about hockey. All right. What else do we have?
I saw, and by the way, we were saying go ahead and talk about it in the chat, but we might not bring it up in the.
Yeah.
You guys can chat about everything. We like it. We love the interaction. I saw a couple at the. Yeah, I don't want to touch vaccines. Don't want to touch vaccines. Well, a lot of people talk about vaccines.
It was in the news today. That is for sure. But
Chris Seifert, right, a few up. Friend of the show says, "Don't do that." 6.1 matching by the Habs. So Chris would agree with you and I that better to take the 2 draft picks.
And I would say basing a contract offer entirely around getting revenge on a team that slighted you, maybe don't do that, because you kind of put yourselves in potentially a not great scenario, having to give up a 1st and 3rd round pick to have the luxury of paying a 30-point player, maybe a 35-point player, $6.1 million next year.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. And someone said, put me on the stream, and someone said, don't torture yourself. So I appreciate the love. All right. You want to pick some questions out, and we'll take this home for the last 12 minutes or so?
Sure. Minutes? Let's do it here.
I like Noah's. Just 3 up.
Go for it.
Do you want to start? Okay. Who do you see being the best team this upcoming season in the league? Noah is going to say Colorado or Florida. Interesting.
Yeah, so Colorado's a safe bet as being a contender at least. The easy pick is Tampa Bay because, I mean, they've consistently been the best team in the league for about 3 years now, even though they're their one playoff gaffe.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Tampa Bay because I like to be right. But Colorado is a good pick. I don't know. Is there any other teams in the NHL? I think that's it, right?
Truly. Those were going to be my 2 picks. It doesn't make for the best discussion, and Tampa really, I think they've only lost Tyler Johnson and Blake Coleman, right? I think those are the only 2. Oh, I guess Yanni Gord too. So
yeah. Slight hits, but they're so good to the point where it's not going to be a huge game changer, I don't think.
Which reminds me, when we were talking about 2-on-2 overtime, if you had to pick your best 2 skaters to come across, who are you taking between Kucherov, Stamkos, and Point? I was actually kind of thinking about that.
I don't have a clue.
I think I go Kucherov and Point.
Yeah, I'd probably go the same.
Yeah. Still.
Yeah, and I mean, Vegas could be up there for top teams in the league too, right? I mean, they had a crazy, they won 40 of their 56 games last year. Right, they only lost 16 games. That's absurd.
What?
Yeah.
Some people are warning that people might be overrating Vegas, but I think some of those people are just
hard to overrate them. Right? They've been consistently basically a top 5 team since they've joined the league.
Yeah.
And even if they were to take a slight step back, they're gonna get only 105 points next season. They're gonna be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, they will be fine, especially in our division. Actually, I like Edmonds from about 8 up, which is kind of like the opposite. Which team do you think will regress big time? From Edmund Yan. That's a good question.
That
Which
is a good
team?
question. I would go. Oh, I had one and then I forgot it. I would go with. Wow, I have nothing.
I have
I'm
one.
completely blanking.
We've talked about this team quite a bit today. It might be Carolina actually, because they
Yep.
lost Dougie Hamilton. I can't say the goaltender's name because you're the pronunciation guy. Nickel Dove. You know the guy I'm talking about.
Nedeljkovic. Nickelodeon, right?
Yeah, these guys are wanting. Clay speaks for as part of his job. I don't think he does a good job. Yes. So they lost their good goalie. They lost Dougie Hamilton. Warren Fogle went to Edmonton, and they lost one other forward. I can't remember, but I don't know. Those three relatively important. Like I know every team went through some changes, but maybe they get KK.
Yeah, maybe that'll bring them right back to contention.
So that's one team that I have my eye on, and that's why I also think Montreal, if they don't match, that first round draft pick may not be as high as it used to be for Carolina. It might be a mid-round pick. Mid-teens pick. So it might be decent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quick question from Aggie.
Yeah.
Nachos or popcorn?
For me, popcorn. You?
I'm going nachos.
Good.
All right.
Good.
That was fun. No arguing here. C edits. Who are your favorite picks for this upcoming season for the Calder Trophy and the Vezina Trophy?
Oh.
Why don't we start with Vezina, because it's probably a little bit easier. You don't have to think of any new names.
Okay. Who won it this year? Fleury, right?
Fleury won it this year. Yep.
Yeah. I still think, this is such a boring pick, but I'll go Vasilevsky.
I knew you were going to say that.
I know, yeah.
That's a very boring pick. You're right.
Very predictable.
That was my first instinct too. I don't know. Why don't we go off the board with Jack Campbell is going to put up like a 930 and carry the Maple Leafs or something silly. I don't know. I think the safe bet is it's Vasilevsky because he is the best goalie in the world right now. We could see it's not going to be John Gibson because their team's only going to win 30 games this season at most. But I like him a lot. Hellebuck is always a good option.
Always liked him.
But the Jets are, they're a bubble team, I would say, right? They're sort of a middling team that's not guaranteed to even make the playoffs. And that's another reason why I think Demko might have a really good year, but I don't think he's going to be a Vezina candidate because I don't see the Canucks being like a top 3 team in the NHL.
Yeah, so I agree with you. So let's go from Demko to a teammate, Podkolzin. Would he have a chance to win the Calder? Sure, why not? He has a chance to, but he's not going to play like major impactful minutes. And you guys got Quentin Byfield, Zegras, Cole Caulfield. There's a lot of really
Cole Caulfield is I think
is that your pick?
I think so. Yeah, he is. He's really good. I think he could, score. I think he scored 30 goals this year, right?
Yep.
He only had 4 in the playoffs, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But he had 4 in his 10 regular season games last year, right? So if he goes out and he scores 25 goals, right, that's usually a pretty easy Calder win.
Okay. Yeah, no, and I think it would bring some consternation to Canucks fans who saw the Canucks pick Podkolzin while Caulfield was still on the board, but that's easy to say now. Podkolzin is just starting his career, so I'm not going to freak out too much if he doesn't win a Calder Trophy.
Yeah. You just got to be a finalist. We got to keep up our Calder, at least contenders. Höglander wasn't one, but he was close.
Yeah, top 5, I think. Yeah, you're right.
All right, you get to pick the next one.
Okay, let's go with Noah. Did you see the Islanders being contenders now? They signed a bunch of guys today, right, or something? Or
they did. Well, they signed them a long time ago. But Lou Lamoriello doesn't tell anyone, and he doesn't submit them to the league until the last possible second.
What?
So I think it came out that the Palmieri contract was done a few weeks ago, but Lamoriello just never submitted it, and he never told anyone because that's his thing. So they signed multi-year contracts for Anthony Beauvillier, Casey Cizikas, Kyle Palmieri, and Elias Sorokin, all technically signed this morning, but they were all just announced today.
Wow. So they made it to Final Four, right? They lost to Tampa in the... No, did they? The divisions got me so messed up.
It is confusing.
Yeah. Okay. So they still have their Matthew Barzal, Lee, Nelson, Palmieri, Pajot, Bailey, Beauvillier, Clutterbuck. Okay, and then who else do they have on defense? Their defense is good. Boychuk, Pelech, Polak.
Pelech is really good.
See, I'm butchering all the names. I'm gonna find a name I can say. Andy Green.
Yes, I think he's just not Greeny. There's an E at the end.
Oh, dang it. And I'm not even going to try their goalie. So, yeah, I'm just kidding. I think they can have a good team. Are they contenders? I think they're always contenders. If you make Final Four over, a couple times over the past 3 years, I think you are a contender.
I think they are a contender. I just have trouble picking them because of their play style. Because they are such a heavily defensive team, right? You look at the East Division last year, which was the division they played in. They finished fourth in their division, but they were sixth in goals for in that division, but they were first place by a mile in goals against, right?
Yes.
They might have led the league in goals against. No, Vegas had a couple less. But the Islanders only allowed 128 goals in 56 games last season. So about less than 2.5 per game, which is crazy when you look at the Canucks, who allowed 188. So the Canucks allowed more than one more goal per game than the Islanders. But yeah, when you have a team with that much structure, like once they make the playoffs, that's the type of team that can win in the playoffs. So yeah, they just got to make it.
And I know it's pretty funny, man. I remember some of our shows in the summer. We were totally ragging on them. They're so boring. They're a bunch of nondescript guys, but they're successful. Can you go to Lucas's from way back, like at 1046? Because I really like this question. Any games of notice you plan to go to for the next upcoming season, and that he's waiting for approval to get back to work? Awesome. I know him and Justin are among two people in our chat always that do work for the team. So I haven't split mine up with my season ticket partner, but what games in a perfect world would you try and get to this season?
Oh, I haven't even really looked at the schedule.
Yeah. So forget about dates. Who cares about dates? What games would you like to try and go to teams?
Yeah. I mean, there's always the marquee ones, right? Like the game against the Maple Leafs would be nice to go to, but it will be expensive. I'd like to go see a game against Seattle.
Yes.
Just to say I did. Other than that, there's none that I used to love, like seeing guys like Connor McDavid come and watch him live, but I've seen him live quite a bit now. And it's like, hey, it's, I enjoy watching it, but I know what I'm getting. So there's not a lot else that really like sticks out to me as like a team I have to go see.
Interesting. For me, Parker, the last game, the game I was supposed to watch before the season shut down was March 2020 against Tampa. Marie Huey was going to sing the anthem. She was going to bring me. So I actually got good seats as opposed to, my seats are great, but some lower bowl seats. And then of course, COVID happened. And of course they've won the cup two straight times. So I'd love to go see Tampa. Colorado is always a fun game. Toronto, Montreal, marquee games, the crowd's buzzing, but we usually sell those games. Those are actually two games that we actually do sell. So you're right about McDavid. The novelty will never wear off, but how good's that team? So I think for me, Seattle, I agree with you. That novelty is cool. I want to see Tampa. I want to see Colorado. And maybe, I think the Rangers are a sneak. They almost made the playoffs last season. They got some really good players. I'd love to see Adam Fox play live. So the Rangers are actually a cool team that I love to see too. Yeah,
they are on the upswing for sure, even though Chris Drury's maybe made some questionable moves since stepping into that role, but they will be a fun, exciting team. Exciting team to watch.
Yeah, and Chris says, I'd like to see a game against Florida or the Rangers. Yeah, those are good. Blaze says, I give up now with my question, so not sure if we kept
Blaze's question was, we'll go for it. Okay. Asking about, could you see Luongo as an eventual GM of the Vancouver Canucks?
I can't. He's my favorite player of all time for the Canucks, but I just think there's too much. I just get the feeling that he wouldn't want to come back. He didn't leave. Yeah, leave on great terms. He seems more comfortable in Florida, all those things, and it would be great to see him come back. It's almost, and we got saddled with this cap recapture penalty. It's not his fault, but that's just another thing to add to it. So I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, my light went out.
That's all. There you go.
I agree. I think if he gets to that point where he's like a real GM candidate, I think other teams will be his priority over coming back here.
That's fair.
Steel Dog says you need a longer show because 1 hour isn't enough. Well, you will get the same amount of shows, but on a different day in just 2 weeks. If that's any consolation.
So Parker, this is going to sound like a bit of back patting for both of us, not just me, but I can't pat your bat across we were worried today that we were not going to make it to even the 25-minute mark. What's going to happen when the Canucks actually do stuff and we have games to talk about? We might,
and the rest of the NHL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk faster, I guess. I don't know.
We're going to be busy. We're going to have to do this every day. No. Yeah, it will be. We will have to do some adapting and figure out the best way to consolidate and talk a little bit less.
Yeah.
But no, we're excited. I mean, we've done this show for almost 5 months now, since April 12th. This is our 22nd episode, which is nice. We're established going into the season.
The Daniel Sedin episode, yes.
But we haven't had anything to really talk about, like any games, right? We had that stint at the end of the season after the COVID outbreak, but those were mean-nothing games that were sad to watch. Yeah. So that wasn't very fun to talk about. So as we do get into, October and we're hitting our stride a little bit more every week, we will have no shortage of topics, I'm sure.
Yeah, one thing I'm going to work on, I just noticed as I listen to you intently, is I think I nod about 568 times an episode. So I don't know if that's distracting to people or if it's showing that I'm actually engaged, but I just noticed I got a natural bobblehead.
It's good. The younger generation, we lose our attention span very quickly. So we need some visual cues to keep our minds stimulated.
Well, if there's one thing I've never been accused of being in, it's the younger generation. So thank you.
So we'll wrap up there. Shannon is asking, when is the next Canucks After Dark? Great question. So here is sort of the future of the show. Next Wednesday at 10 p.m. Will be our last Wednesday show, at least for the foreseeable future. So Wednesday, September 8th, 10 p.m. And then we will be shifting back to our original Monday time slot. So we're not going to skip a week or anything. It's going to be Wednesday the 8th and then Monday, September 13th. So just a little 5-day gap there. And our plan is to run Mondays throughout the season. Canucks don't play very much on Mondays this season, so it'll allow us to just have shows that aren't necessarily focused on one game, but more so the week as a whole, which will be exciting.
Yes, perfect. Well said. And that's the start of season 2. And I know, Parker, you have a fun thing, especially unless some crazy news breaks. We have a kind of little fun activity that's going to involve everyone on that day, which we're very excited about.
Absolutely. We're going to kick off season 2 with a fun little contest sort of idea where everyone will, you guys can all share your opinions and predictions, and we'll do a big tournament sort of throughout the year. We'll have some sort of prize at the end for the winner there, but stay tuned. That's one you won't want to miss, is Monday, September 13th. Don't miss the next one either, though, because we like having you guys around. And that will be not the penultimate, but the ultimate Wednesday night show. Parker, as we wrap up, I know you always ask me if I have any final words. Tell us one thing that you're looking forward to in the next week before our next show. Not Canucks related, just in your life. Anything exciting going on? It's a long weekend. It is Labor Day weekend, so it'll be nice to sort of reset. I don't know what the weather's going to be like, but I will be relaxing as hard as I can this weekend.
That sounds good.
How about yourself?
For me, starting my next course in my master's that I'm doing online, and I'm speaking at a conference virtually on the weekend, so I will take care of that and enjoy some family time as well. Perfect. Any parting Canucks After Dark related words? Yeah, Canucks After Dark related. I thought this went well tonight. I can't believe we're at number when I see that and hear it number 22. That's pretty fast. They say time flies when you're having fun, but I do think that especially during this off season where there's been a dearth of news sometimes, I'm really glad that we've had this outlet, and looking forward to more of this. Looking forward to our channels growing respectively and together, and I'm looking forward. I'm excited. September 1. This is the start of an actual hockey month, so I'm very excited. It is sports season. Football's starting. Hockey's starting. Everything is just ramping up from here. So thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. Over 200 people stopped in throughout the show. So thank you guys very much for tuning in.
And if you missed any part of the show, you can always rewind, but if it is getting late, you can listen to the podcast version after the fact. And if you guys could, maybe just listen to the podcast again anyways, or just play it in the background tomorrow, because we're trying to get up those charts and try to take down some of our stiff competition here in Canada. So thank you guys again for hanging out, and we will see you next Wednesday.